Hello everybody, this is Dean from Motion Media, and today we're going to look at several topics. Overall, we're going to look at the workflow surrounding creating some good-looking product shots, but moreover animation, and kind of what's the rough setup to that. What are you looking for? What are you trying to do? And then how to achieve some of those cool-looking renders where it's slowly rotating, catching cool reflections, that kind of thing. So, first I want to start with, this is a free TurboSquid model of the iPhone 5. And anytime you start one of these processes, the first thing, obviously, that you always look for is a great model. You can basically fix anything else, but if you don't have the good geometry in place, you're going to be fighting that for the entire project. So that's really number one. And I'm just using this because it was free on TurboSquid and what have you. Now, I did a render. This is the file literally from TurboSquid opened up and looked at in Max. And for my taste, this isn't really the setup I can go with. While he is using V-Ray lights, he's not using a V-Ray camera. And anybody who's watched my stuff knows that I don't set things up this way. I use a different method. He also has his gamma control turned off. So for me, even though that looks cool, I like to work inside my own settings so that I kind of can anticipate what things are going to look like. So this is all good. I also took a quick peek at the materials, and they look pretty good. Again, I'm looking for making sure they're set up properly, and for the most part they are. You may have too many subdivisions here and there, but again, that's stuff we can tweak on the fly once we get a feel for render times. But the biggest thing is that he's using V-Ray materials, and they look to be set up correct. So first thing I'm going to do is reset my scene. And this is going to basically just take me back to a fresh Max. Then I'm going to merge in that iPhone and just the iPhone. Okay, you can see it's pretty small there, so I'm going to scale this up a bit. Alright, something like that. And I like to have things centered, and I think in this case I'm gonna rotate this guy up. Alright, and again, just using my transforms, zeroing them out. So my object is at 0, 0, 0. However, I'm going to move it up on the z-axis a bit, so my floor, my little situation is going to go right in there. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of space. So now V-Ray is already here, but I'm going to load my own settings, which is V-Ray start, and it basically sets everything up the way I like it. Linear workflow, all my settings to start out nothing high quality, just so I can move quickly and check renders and that kind of thing. Next, I'm just going to make sure that the gamma control is on. It is not, so let's turn it on. I like the output at 1, but everything else like this. Okay. Next, we're going to just quickly set up a V-Ray camera. I'm going to do the same kind of thing here. I'm going to select the camera and target and zero it out so it is exactly at 0, 0, 0. And then just back my camera out here. I'm going to leave that lens. We'll turn off vignetting. We'll use a neutral white balance. And then actually, I'm just going to move this straight up. Let's look through the camera. Let's I like to turn on my safe frames. A little problem there with the video. Alright, so let's back this out. Just get a good framing. Alright. Okay. Now my iPhone is in the center. Alright. I'm going to turn off these grids here. And let's make this iPhone something other than gray so it's a little easier to see for the moment. And then let's put in some, for the moment, let's just put in one light. Let's look at what that does. Again, same procedure. I like to, especially when I'm doing any of these product design shots, I really like to start with everything in the center of my scene. And as you do this as a point of practice, you know, just gets easier to merge things in and out and what have you. So I'm going to turn this from realistic to shaded. And just do, I'm going to make the light source invisible. We'll leave everything else as it is. And then let's just do a quick render here. I'm going to actually, well, let's just try it at 1920, see what we get. I like turning this on. This allows the render to follow your mouse. Okay, now right now as a default, my setup puts a Vray sky in the background. So we're just going to get rid of that real quick. In this case, we're not going to use a sky. We're going to be using more of a studio lighting setup. So I'm going to re-render it. Okay, here we go. All right, you can see what we get. We're against black here. Really cool. All right. So from here, you know, this is just all about the direction that you receive from your client. But for the sake of this video tutorial, we're going to try another position here and re-render again. All right. Cool. Okay. Now, right now, we just have a blank scene. We've got a camera, a light, and the object. And I'm going to save this really quick. We'll save this as a studio setup. Okay. Now, in most of these commercials, this will always be against white or, you know, some sort of lighter gray. But if we do that in here, what's going to happen is it tends to blow the phone out. So you kind of want to have two different environments. You're going to have the environment that you comp it into, and then you're going to have the environment that you render it in. So for the moment, we're going to go with this environment, and I'm going to save this real quick. And I'm going to make sure, because I just think this will be easier. All right, Vray RT is already my active shade. So I'm going to go down here to my active shade and launch that. Okay. Now this is my real-time renderer for Vray. I'm going to turn off these messages real quick. Then I'm going to change it to HD, and we're going to make it a smaller setting, and then let's hit render again. I just did that so that my aspect ratio now matches my my final render aspect ratio. So I'm just going to set this in here, and then basically I like to just experiment and move the light around and see what we get. I mean, this is by far the coolest part of all of the new technology that's coming, is being able to do this in real time. So while we're doing this, you can see this is really what we're after right here. You can see this reflective line. Let's turn on our local axis. Kind of rotate our light here. Okay, you see this? This is what we're after, and you see this in all commercials. All right, so this is your sweet point. You know, this is what you're looking for, is to get that nice edge here and rotate through it. So let's we're going to close all this for a moment. Cancel that. I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to hide my lights and my camera for a second, and we're going to set this phone up so we can do a little bit of animation. So I'm going to first set up one dummy. Oops, no I'm not. I'm going to accidentally select the phone and mess it up. Let's make one dummy, and I'm going to center this on the world. Actually, you know what? I'm not. I'm going to align this to the phone. Okay, and we'll do pivot, pivot, center, center. All right. Okay, so we're going to call this dummy move. Then we're going to create a couple more here. Create another dummy. And this is going to be dummy rotate. Oops. Rotate 01. Let's create another one. Call this rotate 02 and rotate 03. Now this is kind of a pain in the butt as a setup, but it's worth it in the long run, especially when a client isn't really sure on what exactly they'd like to do. This will make your life a lot easier. I'm going to take one of these dummies here and just scale it down just to make it easier to grab. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to link the phone to the first dummy, then that dummy to the next one, then this dummy to the next one, and then this one to the next one. Okay, so what we've done now is we have a nice little hierarchy where our main dummy moves the phone and all the other dummies. And then each of these dummies, I suggest you only rotate on one axis. So we rotate here. Actually, let's show this in animation. Let's turn on auto key, go out 200. So I rotate just one direction there. I rotate just one direction there. And I can rotate completely. So what do I do there? So that one? No. Maybe this one. There we go. Okay. Now, I've separated basically all of the different axes of the phone so that I can rotate each one individually, and then at the same time, grab this and, whatever, maybe it streaks across the screen, who knows. Go back here. Oops. Pay attention to what you're selecting. Move it over here. Okay, now if we just hit play, now we're going to get the phone sliding across the screen. Okay, so in this particular case, I don't want to move it, so I'm going to get rid of that. So I just have my rotations. Do a quick render here. Let's see what we've got. Okay, cool. Now usually the phone is going to rotate into a position or whatever. So, this is all about choices. Again, this is all about what the client wants, what is it you're trying to do, what is it supposed to look like, where is it supposed to land, etc. So, in one case, we could say maybe this is our final resting place. So, if that is the case, then what we want to do is we want to swap all of our keyframes. So I want to start with it in one place, but end up here. Okay? Boom. Right? So now we have our final lighting in place already set up. Okay, we've already seen that. Go back to 0. Render. Okay? Now, maybe we want the light to move through the phone or over the phone. So let's unhide our light. And so we know that this position of the light sets us up for the ending. And I'm going to save this and let's switch to RT. Okay. All right, so that's our final resting place for the light. But let's start it in a different position. So let's go to the last frame. Let's right-click on the time slider, and we're going to add all of those keyframes to this light source. Then we're going to go to this frame, and using the camera view, I think I'm going to put the hotspot or align this light with the camera area here. And it's doing a lot of funky things. Let's see here. see what we get. Alright, looks like my light source went to Crazy Town. So let's undo that. Okay. So let's so for some reason takes and puts that light way out there. Not really sure why it's doing that. No worries. Since we have it in real time, we can just do it by hand. So let's put this back there, and then basically it just becomes all about finding a sweet spot to start from. Okay, so let's move it away a bit. And let's pull it up. What I'm looking at is this right here. Just trying to find a place where I get that streak across. And you can see sometimes these movements are very, very subtle, but you see that's what we're really looking for. We want to get that line right across there. And then now that light's going to animate from there to its resting spot. Okay, very nice. And we can see with RT, I mean, this is fantastic. We can kind of almost get a little preview of our animation before we even render it, which is awesome. You know, just so I can get a feel. And I can tell right here, we're going to get a nice little line across the top. Look at that. Perfect. And that line's going to move. And that's what it's all about. We want this light moving. Here we go. It's going to draw a line right across there. Beautiful. And caress all of those edges. You know, that's what we're really after. Now, from here, you know, again, depending on what you want to do, let's say that we want to maybe zoom in, maybe on this last frame. We want to be pulled out just a little bit, but on the first frame, maybe we'd like to be a bit closer to everything. Really get this up in the front here. Yeah. Okay, now it looks like it's sort of falling away from us, if you will. Okay. Now one other thing here I just noticed while we're doing this is this screen probably could benefit, it might be set wrong. When you use linear settings and a V-Ray camera and a V-Ray light, you need to make sure that when you use the V-Ray light material that, and what I'm doing is searching for the screen. Here it is. Okay, so in this case they just used a straight material. I don't think I would do that. Let's ungroup or open this group for just a moment. Turn off my lights and my helpers, and let's see what they actually did here. What I'm looking to see is, okay, it is. So in this particular case, what they did was they made the screen is also the glass. Okay, so you can see it's reflective, whatever. The problem with this is that it doesn't feel very illuminated. So maybe a better idea is to use the V-Ray blend. So let's choose V-Ray blend. And remember that when you're using V-Ray, you always want to use V-Ray materials. This is key, especially if you're going to break things out into a composition later. So this is going to be our base material, which is going to be a V-Ray light, and it's going to use this texture. So let's grab that. Just put it on there. Okay. Now, what I was talking about earlier is you have to make sure you turn this on, compensate for camera exposure. Otherwise, lit things will not turn out right. We'll do a little example of this when we get back to there. Okay, now we're going to go up. Now that's our base material, is the lit thing. Now what we want to do with the coating material is just make a V-Ray material, a standard material, and I'm going to make this really black, like a setting of 2, and then we're going to make it, you know, very refractive. Okay, and we're going to, I don't want it bending too much, so I'm going to give it less bend or refraction. This is a similar setting to like a windshield. Alright, and then we're going to copy that name. We'll paste it here, and then that way we can just update this material. And I'm going to turn this down so that I can show the map again. If this is white, oh, it is working. Great. Okay, so let's go back to our regular renderer. Okay, so you can see now we have a far more illuminated screen. Takes a little bit longer to render because it's a more complex material, but it ultimately gives us you know, a better looking result here. And we're going to mimic his reflection here, so he's got a little bit of fall off and what have you. So let's do that, and we can just see our material here. So let's do that 0.95, and I didn't even have reflection on. Alright, and Fresnel. Okay, let's render that again. If we zoom in here, it's going to take a little bit longer, but now we'll see. Get a little bit more reflection. We had none in before, just refraction. Alright, so if we turn this phone just a little bit to a place where it's not pointing directly at us and hit render. Okay, see now our screen feels illuminated where it didn't before. Okay, and to show that more clearly, let's swap this back in. Hit render again. This is our screen that was not illuminated. You can see it's a pretty big difference. Okay. Alright. Alright. Close that group. So we have a nice little animation here that puts our lights in the sweet spot, and we create a little animation showing how to get you landed at a good spot. And you know, there's other tweaks that we can make to these materials, like I might add some more reflections here or what have you, but you know, overall, I think this gives you a good idea of how to set up a scene like this, where you've got to have a lot of control over lighting. You've got to have a really photorealistic, good-looking product, and then just a little bit of workflow on, you know, how to set that animation up, how to use those lights to your advantage and get them in the spot that you want them to be in, to give you even more movement while you do your animation. Hope this was helpful, and we will talk to you again soon. Thanks.